One of the things that was a common theme when I was interviewing authors is nobody ever has time to write, right? So the common question is, how do you find time? And I thought one of the most common answers that we got that was so right on is it's simple. You make it a priority, right? And so for some people that's hard to do, but it's as simple as you don't watch TV and you give up your hobbies and your sports and you socialize less. And the degree to which you're willing to do that and make that sacrifice equates to the amount of time you get to write, right? And so the more you want to do it, the more you'll make time for it. Another really good piece of advice that I remember getting during the interviews was don't research while you write. So if you're going along and you hit a spot where you need to say, oh, what's the name of that church or the cathedral that was in this city or whatever, just highlight it and move on and come back later and research, because it gets in the way of your creative flow. And then the next piece of advice was similar, but don't edit while you write. So if you stop to edit and correct yourself and censor yourself as you go, you interrupt the creative flow. So the idea is to write it out, and editing uses a different part of your brain. Come back later and do that. So another really good piece of advice that came up a lot was always have pen and paper on you. As authors, we are students, if you will, of the human nature, right? And so no matter where you're at, you're always going to find some kind of inspiration or some tip that you can write down, or something funny that someone said that'll go into your next piece of dialogue. And my favorite, although I didn't interview her, my favorite thought around this is from Lamott. She's a really famous author. And she says, the universe will send you lots of creative ideas. And if you don't capture them, they will send them to someone else. And so always have pen and paper. You and your friend, the English teacher, are not book editors. You're smart people, but you don't try to self-edit as your only source of editing. It's really important, especially as self-published authors, to hire a professional editor, and the same goes for a cover designer, right? So you should do your first pass, ask your friend, the English teacher, to help, but don't forego hiring a professional editor. The next great thing that we heard over and over again was that as the author, especially in today's environment, there's so much you can do to market your own book. And you may find that you still want to go and hire a professional PR firm or marketing firm. And I wouldn't dissuade you from that, but think about what they can do versus what you can do on your own for free instead of paying them. So for instance, setting up your own social media accounts on all the right platforms and managing that is not something you have to pay for. It's not a highly skilled sort of task, right? So save that for yourself and let the hired PR firm do something else for you, right? And you should be on all the key platforms. So across the board, most people know that that's things like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Some people don't know about Pinterest and Instagram and things like that, but you can set up free accounts and use them at even a basic level on your own, right? To market on your own. The other thing you can do as an author on your own is set up and manage your own book events. So the key, I think, there is to think about what it is in your book that ties to something in your community, and then make that connection, right? So if you write a cookbook, don't think you have to go to Barnes and Nobles. You can set up at the local farmers market and have a book signing or a book event, right? Or even if you have fiction, for instance, if your book is set in the local county seat and it ties some history to your county, then go to the Historical Society and see if you can do a reading and a signing with them. And then, of course, publicize all of those things. And you can do that. You'll learn really quickly how to do those things on your own. So self-marketing is really easy for a self-published author to do. When you write nonfiction, doing your own marketing events is a little more, it's a little more obvious what you do, right? So you go to professional associations and you maybe host seminars and you do things like that. But when you write when you write fiction, it can be a little trickier. So be creative about it. If your book centers, maybe your main character owns her own floral shop, right? Well, think about hosting an event at a florist shop. I once spoke to an author who wrote a Victorian novel, and tea figured really prominently into the book. So she went out and had a custom blend of tea designed and would give out free tea bags at all of her events. And it wasn't, she wasn't writing a book about tea, but it tied to the book. The other thing that I would say is network like crazy. So obviously you should be on LinkedIn, and I think a lot of folks would say, but LinkedIn's for, IT people and things like that. And it's not. There's a huge, very active population of authors and editors and publishers on LinkedIn. So there's lots of great places to have group discussions and to connect with other people who do what you do. But then there's also other things you can do to network. So make sure that you're going to conferences and writers' retreats and things like that, and decide what you're networking for. Are you networking for clients, or are you networking for connections, right? So do you want people to buy your book? Well, you should be at book fairs and book festivals. Do you want people to connect with who do what you do? Then go to writers' conferences and get on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. And really, you should be doing both, but just kind of know what your goal is.
Thank you for listening. Please review our other available content for help writing, publishing, and marketing your book. If you have any questions about the Author Learning Center, please contact us by email at authorsupport@authorlearningcenter.com.